So the Sith Raid has been in Galaxy of Heroes for a year and a half exactly at this point. And what I wanted to do, a thing that has been on my to-do project for a long time, is make a comprehensive guide for people, because over the past year and a half, we found so many amazing lineups to tackle the Sith Raid. It still is not completely soloable, so you need to find a lot of great squads for each of phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what we're gonna do today, ladies and gentlemen, as you're seeing on the screen, is I created the complete best known Sith Raid squads in the game. And all these squads come from a variety of creators throughout the community who theory crafted them. And I'm gonna link each and every one of them down below in the video description, so that way, one, you can get complete details on how each of these lineups work, and secondly, you kind of get to know who the raid theory crafting people are in our community. All these damage numbers you're seeing right here are Gear 12 Heroic Raid gameplay. So I'm hoping you guys are gonna find this video helpful for today, and I'm gonna leave a link down below in the video description. If you want a copy of this graphics, you kind of have a quick access guide on your phone or computer or whatever, feel free to download it. Mainly what we're gonna be doing is highlighting some of the overarching things you should be looking at in each phase and talk about some of these teams. Now, there are definitely a lot more teams beyond this, but they aren't the best Sith Raid squads that I've come across. Let's go start off this video by talking about phase 1, the Darth Nihilus phase. So this is probably the second most annoying phase. Jedi Training Raid is one of the best squads you could possibly have for the Sith Raid. So many people out there broke it. For example, I believe Skeltrix was the one that kind of started breaking the Sith Raid in phase 1 of Jedi Training Raid, because there's so many great things in there. You got all these exposes, lots of turn meter, lots of cleansing, plus you get a lot of health and protection regeneration through Finn as well as through BB-8's Illuminated Destiny, because one of the things you want to look for in phase 1 are teams that constantly give you lots of health regeneration or just survivability regeneration, and revives also helps, which is why we see characters like Visa Smar on this list too. Again, links down below if you want complete details on how to compose these lineups and how to get this much damage that I'm listing. If I went over all the details for mods, strategy, turn order, this would be a 5-hour long video. So go to the pros who created these lineups. But kind of going down the list a bit more before we move on to phase 2, we see this other Jedi Training Raid team. Without C-3PO, Jedi Training Raid is still an amazing team, the second best phase 1 team in my opinion. There's a wide range of damage depending on how geared up your characters are, what mods you have on. You can get anywhere from 5 to 10 million with Jedi Training Raid, even without C-3PO. And then Embo, a really fun character to use, because one, it's a little bit different than Jedi Training Raid, and secondly, his leadership ability gives the ability for bounty hunters to counterattack. So one, you're coming back and hitting Darth Nihilus, but secondly, there's also a lot of health steal going on with the Embo bounty hunter crew, which is why Embo is kind of like the third best Sith Raid phase 1 team that you can come across. And as we go down below, you're going to see Hermit Yoda in here as well as many other places. And the point again is you want a lot of healing potential, whether it's protection or health. Ahsoka Tano, with her capabilities to keep cleansing as well as granting protection up, and she keeps assisting over and over again. These two Yoda led teams are some of the other best phase 1 squads you can compose. And of course, there's a lot more beyond that. Imperial Troopers could be used for phase 1, but you're not going to be getting as much damage in this phase 1 of other teams. These are pretty much all the top teams that I want to make sure you guys are aware of. But of course, you're going to find so many other videos and so many other lineups, but you're not going to get as much efficiency and damage output. Now, moving on to phase 2, the easiest phase for all of the Sith Raid. This is the phase that goes by the quickest if you're in an advanced guild, and for people just tackling the Sith Raid, this is kind of the phase to take a breath, enjoy yourself, because this is definitely the easier one, because phase 2 is all about brute force, just going in there and pounding Darth Sign as much as possible. That did not sound right. Jedi Knight Revan is probably the best team for phase 2, and it's kind of a great thing because it's the team that everyone's got to chase after one way or another. And the damage numbers you are seeing, it's kind of a combination of the end of phase 1 going into phase 2. So it's not 20 million damage just in phase 2. It's combining the end of phase 1 going into phase 2. But here, a lot of health regeneration. We got revive capabilities, high damage output. Yoda should be putting out absurd amounts of damage. Darth Revan, between his ferocity and the pain and all the other crazy stuff that Darth Revan has going on, he's gonna really whip out some major damage on Darth Sign. But as you go down the list, you see that you find a lot of other interesting things. Boba Fett lead with Wampa. It's a very mishmash sort of team, but because of Hermit Yoda feeding Grandmaster's training to everyone, especially to Wampa, you can put out some pretty good damage. And Scoundrels, Kira, with Mission and Zalbar and young Han Solo, it's another good team. You get about 4 to 5 million damage, and because of all the assists that are happening and all the young Han Solo putting out some decent damage, and because the scaling opportunities from Kira and Zalbar being a pretty good tank as well, it's going to be soaking up a lot of damage. Again, it's a pretty non-legendary team that you can access, and you can get some good damage out of it. I think these two teams at the bottom are going to be the most practical for people just starting out in the Sith Raid for the very first time, because Bastila Shan and all these Jedi, these are going to be characters you're going to be needing for a variety of legendary events, or for the future Jedi Knight Revan team you're going to be composing. And Bastila Shan, she's just a fantastic character to use until you can finally get access to the Jedi Knight Revan. And then lastly, the Phoenix crew. Again, this is actually something I'm really excited to talk about, because I always push people, if you're starting off in Galaxy of Heroes, you gotta chase after the Phoenix right away, because they give you access to so many things in the game, and they're a good, decent, middle of the rung team in Galaxy of Heroes. And luckily in phase 2, because of all their survivability, they could stick around for quite a long time, and they got some good damage output paired up with Sabine Wren's armor shred to get some good work done on Darth Saya. Again, this isn't a complete list of all the teams in Galaxy of Heroes. This is a complete list of the best teams for Galaxy of Heroes. And of course, there's other things. You can do some bounty hunter stuff. For example, you could do Boba Fett lead with a bunch of bounty hunters, or you could bring Embo in for phase 2 as the lead, or Bosk. Again, the bounty hunters are a pretty staple faction for each and every one of these phases, but bounty hunters aren't going to get as much damage here. You could do things like Imperial Troopers in phase 2, or Gar Sax in the lead. Does some weird stuff we tried out way back when. Now, oddly enough, phase 3, there's a lot of crazy theory crafting going on in phase 3, because the standalone mechanic allows you to basically kind of dictate who you want to soak up all these extra bonuses from their allies, and generally you want your biggest attackers to do so. There are a lot of lineups, and here I only summarize the best ones, but there are some slight variances of these best lineups that I'll talk about. But the biggest one that I could possibly come across was this one right up here. This came from Bulldog, and Bulldog showed that with Commander Luke, he actually used a Scarif Rebel Pathfinder. He got the 30 million damage. Another YouTuber did a similar lineup, but Han Solo instead, and got 28 million damage. So this seems to be the best phase 3 team that you can compose. And now we talk about Night Sisters finally. Night Sisters don't get too much action in phase 1 and phase 2. You can do some work with Night Sisters earlier, but they shine the most in phase 3 as well as phase 4. It's called the Deathstorm Night Sister team. I'm showing some footage from Darth Microtransaction, and he shows how much damage you can get. And basically, it's just constantly getting characters like the Acolyte, or I mean, sorry, the Initiate, to keep reviving themselves when a Night Sister's using a basic, so they can keep getting damage over and over and over again. It's kind of cutting close the line of what a loop is, so it's getting dangerously close, which is why they're such a good team to use in phase 3. Jedi Training Rey, she's showing her face once again. Jedi Training Rey is an amazing team to use in phase 1. You could also use Jedi Training Rey in phase 2 and phase 3, and you can also use it in phase 4. But of course, she's best in phase 1, but here as well in phase 3, you get a lot of use, mainly because C-3PO makes the team work with the constant assist he's calling in and the exposes. And then we get up into the Boba Fett lead right here, which kind of comes down to the whole Han checks mixing that originally started way back when. For example, you don't have to use this lineup. This is the best checks mix lineup, where you have Boba Fett lead, and you're going to want Greedo to stand alone and just put out some massive amounts of damage when he's standing alone, because he's soaking up all these attacker attributes from the other characters that he's with. Han Solo was the original lineup. You'd put like Chirrut in there for the tenacity up and Commander Luke Skywalker or something, and then you'd put Han Solo in, but eventually it was found Chewbacca and Greedo made an amazing combo for this team. But another scoundrel team, we got Aura Singh. Aura Singh is the bounty hunter team to use for phase 3 if you're trying to compose a bounty hunter squad. Enfys Nest is the best lineup that I came across with, but you can do a full bounty hunter squad and still do all right. I think one time I showed a video where I put in, could have been Embo. The point is, you want to give Aura Singh as many attacker attributes as possible from her fellow allies, so that way when she stands alone and uses her special ability, she should be putting out some massive amounts of damage. And lastly, we see Jedi Knight Revan being the last best squad on our list right here. Jedi Knight Revan, it's kind of, again, it's a team you can use for every single phase, but phase 3 as well, kind of like phase 2, you can get a lot of work done in. And lastly, phase 4. Now you're gonna notice I kind of left phase 4 pretty empty, because phase 4, it's the most difficult phase we have in the game, and this is the point where there's like a couple staple teams, but really at the point you get to phase 4, you just dump whatever else you have left into it. And there's not too many teams that can get too far, because again, you're facing the whole triumvirate together. It's meant to be pretty difficult, but the thing I want to highlight the most, again, Night Sisters. Night Sisters are just fantastic for phase 3, phase 4. And this time, instead of Mother Talzin lead, you're going to be bringing Asajj Ventress lead in. And when you make that switch, you're going to get about 8 to 13 million damage, assuming you got gear 12 and the ideal mods and whatnot. And this is going to be Night Sisters in phase 4 are pretty much the guaranteed way to solo the Darth Nihilus part of phase 4. So that way you can narrow it down to Cyan and Traya, and the phase 4 becomes a lot easier. Thrawn, he's kind of your catch-all thing if you're trying to squeeze out a couple more million damage. Thrawn lead with a couple of Empire characters seems to get the job done as well. And the last one I kind of want to highlight, not as impressive as the other ones, but it's slightly different. General Grievous actually does okay in phase 4, and then sometimes, you know, the AI on the other team gets confused and a Droideka will get damage immunity and he can just keep soaking up damage. But luckily Grievous, as his health scales, he can put out some good damage, and Droideka will too before the raid runs, and luckily B1 will feed some health and protection to everyone. So many other things you can do. Technically all these other lineups in phase 1 to phase 3, if you didn't use them in those phases, you can just toss them to phase 4. Phase 4 is literally just the kitchen sink phase. You got a couple of good ones, but after that, just start throwing whatever. You could throw in Darth Revan, Jedi Knight Revan against them, Commander Luke, Jedi Training Rey. You're not going to get this much damage, but you're still going to put a number in it so your guild can just close up the raid and move on with their day. So with that said, that is going to wrap up our list for the complete best squads for the Heroic Sith Raid. The Sith Raid is still one of the most challenging things in the game. It's not at the point where we can completely solo it on auto like the AAT raid or the Rancor raid, and it's still probably going to be a while until we do so. So this should be a good graphic to refer to kind of know what to shoot for in your guild to master the Sith Raid, because the faster you master the Sith Raid, the quicker you can get Darth Traya, an important character in the game, and the quicker you can get some more currency as well as gear. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like the video if you did enjoy. Comment down below on your thoughts, and be sure to subscribe so you're not missing a thing. And I'll talk to all you lovely people in the next video. Peace out, everyone.
Party Richter, Party Richter. Down, 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 down. Party Richter, Party Richter. Son of a bitch. Party Richter, Party Richter. Down, down, down.